we got a guy who's another interesting case here. Another guy that was talked about coming out last year that I don't know if he helped or hurt his stock by staying in, but you can make that case either way potentially, and that's Carson Beck.
Oof.
And Carson Beck, 21 years old, actually turns 22 very soon. So he's going to be 22 by the time the draft comes out. 6'4", 215 pounds, born November 19th, 2022. Sorry, 2002, not 2022. 2-year-old prospect now. In Jacksonville, Florida, went to Mandarin High School. He was named the 2018 Florida Mr. Football after throwing 3,546 yards and 30 touchdowns, and led the school to the Florida State Championship, throwing 5 touchdowns in the championship game. His senior year, he threw only for 1,843 yards and 20 touchdowns. He was also a star basketball player in high school, which, am I the only one who can't picture him playing basketball?
Yeah, I don't know.
He just looks like he'd look goofy as hell playing basketball. I'm sorry. Like, he just doesn't look like he'd fit the part at all. Like, it's just something about him. Like, what? No?
It doesn't look like a hooper. Doesn't look like a hooper to me.
You know what it is? There's a certain amount of grace and body motion control you really need as a basketball player, and he just doesn't strike me as he'd have that whatsoever.
No.
Like, he's the guy that if you go up to the dance floor, you're like, stop. Dude, stop.
For me, him coming back definitely hurt his stock. The funny thing is, going into this college season, a lot of people had him number one. They had him over Sanders. You might have saw Ewers too at number one in some cases, depending on what site you were looking at. Prototypical type quarterback, 6'4", 6'5", 220 pounds. He has that size, good arm. Can't deny his arm strength. Make all the throws, but there's just something going on with him. Pressure is one thing. He doesn't, he doesn't give you what you need. And they did lose, Brock Bowers last year. He was like his security blanket. But there's not a shortage of talent when you're talking about the Georgia Bulldogs at all.
Nope.
And for me, and it's funny too, because when I look at the Alabama game, they were getting blown out in the beginning. I thought the game was absolutely over. And for me, his stock was falling. And then that second half, he had a pretty good second half, bringing Georgia back into that game. So, that raises the confidence. You show a little bit of adversity and coming back from that. But as far as just a prospect, to me, I think he's a fringe guy now, because before he was, a first rounder. Now he's fringe first round, day 2 guy, in my opinion. Is he my choice for the Giants? Absolutely not. But if we get into the second round, I wouldn't mind, checking out Carson Beck.
Something about him just screams lifelong backup quarterback to me, man. I got to be honest. Like, that's what I see. I see him, and I see him, and it's like I see him next to a picture of Colt McCoy, and I'm like, who's who?
What was a quarterback from Denver that Denver drafted? Brock something. Remember him?
Brock Osweiler? No. It was
Brock Osweiler. Those kind of vibes, man. Where it's not quite
the guy who conned Houston out of a big contract.
Oh my gosh! And remember Jerry Jones wanted him.
If only.
Right.
Yeah. Stats on him here for you guys. So in 20, he had 1 game, no stats. 21, 4 games at Georgia there. 10 of 23, 176 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, 5 rushes, and 15 yards. That was a national championship season, obviously, for Georgia, as was the next one at 22, where he's 7 games, 26 of 35, 310 yards, 4 touchdowns, 7 rushes, 43 yards. Obviously, he's a backup at this point here. Last year, 23 is his first year starting. 14 games, 72.4 completion percentage, 24 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, 60 rushes for 116 yards, 4 touchdowns. Second team All SEC. Now, guys, the guy obviously first team All SEC. I don't have to look it up. I know it had been James Daniels, so obviously I can't even hate the man for being second team at that point there. Like, that was my number 1 prospect last year coming out there, and that wasn't even just quarterback. Overall, I thought he was going to be a beast. This season currently in Georgia, 9 games, 65.4 completion percentage, 17 touchdowns, 12 interceptions, 38 rushes, 39 yards. Guys, that's something that scares the what out of me.
Yep.
You went down. You were supposed to get better.
Significantly down, though.
Yeah. Like I know you're mentioning like second round or so for him at that point. It wouldn't shock me at all if he drops to like 3rd round, early 4th round, that kind of player, because that's a huge drop off, and that's got to scare people. And if it doesn't, Or somebody just loved him from the get-go and just refuses to change their opinion, I feel like.
Yeah, I think, like I said, last year, that 2023 season, he should have came out. He should have came out. He was doing everything right. And the funny thing is like when you look at him this year, it's kind of like what happened to you, like because it's still that Georgia offensive line, which is pretty standard.
Mhm.
You still have some talent on the outside, not the same type of names, but you should not be playing as bad as you're playing right now. And it's not like the SEC is as strong as it normally is. Too, we'll find out in the playoffs. But to me, I'm like second round is kind of friendly for me to say that. Day two sounds better when you can throw in the third round, especially when you're looking at like if I'm going to compare him again at the top, we have Shador, we got Cam Ward, another guy we have not talked about yet that's also a fringe guy. But then when I look at Beck, I kind of put him and yours in like the same category where they're not horrible, they're not great, but you can survive probably. You can survive with them. You can probably sell them. Maybe you can't sell them to me, but you might be able to sell them, to the masses. But I don't want to kick him while he's down. I want to see what happens in the playoffs because that's what matters. We'll see what happens because I like the way he responded in that Alabama game. I would like to think that he's more of, and I've been harsh, like on Twitter, I've been harsh on Carson Beck. I don't even want to hear it when it comes to Carson Beck, but I'm also an Alabama fan. So there's a little bit of bias or a lot of bit of bias there. But yeah, it's not like he's a kid that you can hate. I don't hate him.
Yeah.
I just would like to know what the heck happened to you, man.
Yep.
Yeah.
Now, interesting side note. I didn't even know this till I did the research on this kid here. We all remember the Cavender. Is that the name I pronounced the twins there that were playing in Miami?
Who's that?
So I'm gonna look it up real quick for you. I'm gonna see if I can look it up.
Yeah, I
So
don't know who you're talking
there's
about.
the Cavender twins who played basketball at Miami, and they were well known because of the fact that they were, we say, attractive young blonde women.
Okay.
I guess probably the best way. I'm trying to be nice about it.
Is he dating one of them?
I'm trying not to sleep on the couch tonight. Like, yeah, he is dating one of the two twins at that point there. So I didn't even think they were still relevant, to be honest. I thought it was a couple of years ago. These two were kind of famous there. But here we go. I found a picture of them.
Okay.
Obviously, this is not a good picture. This is
They look like they're playing
basketball, but yeah, they were kind of well known for their looks on social media and everything like that. They became kind of big stars from that, and of course, yeah, I'm trying to find a good picture for you to put up on there, but they're all those web files that you can't use during the show live like that. That's usually the way it goes.
I'll take your word for it.
Yeah, but anyway, I thought that was interesting. I thought they were done. Like they're playing. They must be still playing for the NIL money now at this point. There, what the hell? I mean,
it's not quite good enough to make it to the WNBA. Is that what?
If I remember correctly, they were not very good necessarily as players, but they were kind of famous more for their looks than anything else. There, again, I could be wrong. That's what I heard more about. I don't pretend to be the guy that follows women's college basketball too much there. No. Anyway, under the pros and cons of Carson here. Athletic, great at throwing into the middle of the field, goes through progressions and reads well. Pocket passer, good NFL size. Cons, has had trouble dealing with pressure from defenses, which I think is a lot of his problem this year from what I've seen. Has been hesitant to throw into tight windows. Plays it definitely too safe. Now that's a really bad combo when you have trouble dealing with pressure and you are too scared to throw into coverage. That means
he didn't have those issues in 23.
Did not at all.
And
You're
that's
right.
the crazy thing.
Does have a little bit of accuracy issues also when throwing on the run too, as well, which is weird. Most mobile quarterbacks, they've been doing that their whole life, and they're pretty good at it. He's definitely got that issue. Bleacher reports that Carson Beck is a talented pocket passing quarterback with enough mobility to remove the statue comparisons when he is allowed to comfortably and confidently throw with timing and rhythm. Carson Beck will make defenses pay. I appreciate his processing and football IQ. He is best suited for a team with a good supporting cast and rushing attack, alleviating the need for Beck to play hero ball or carry the offense. His overall skill set makes him a potential long-term starter in the NFL. You know, it's been an interesting place for him. We talked about it as a place for no one to go. Put him back with Brock Bowers again.
Take him back to the Raiders, right? That's where. Yeah, right.
You know, they got two really good back-to-back.
Yeah, because they got the kid from Notre Dame too, didn't they? The year before.
Yeah, Michael Meyer, not to be confused with the Halloween kid. So yeah, they got two good running backs back to back at that point there. Like I said, that might be an interesting spot for him, I think, honestly, just because the two comparisons there. we did have Rob also chime in from the comments section there. Said 4th round unless he balls for the rest of the season.
So he got him definitely as a day 3 guy.
Okay. I said honestly, like I said, if I'm an NFL scout, that would scare the bejesus out of me. Yeah. Where I wouldn't go for him unless it was a situation like we talked about before with Quinn Ewers going with a spot where you can let him sit behind somebody for a year or two, and then if you decide in the first year he's not the guy, you repeat the process next year.
Yeah, you know, with me, and a lot of this has to do with where the New York Giants are right now as far as where we're picking. If I'm picking at 2, I don't want to talk about Carson Beck. I don't want to talk about yours. Give me one of those top 2 guys, please.
You know what it boils down to, though? I think a lot of the fan base is worried, and it's a weird worry to have, but they're worried about Tommy DeVito coming in and kicking us back
into games,
like at the 9 or 10 spot at that point there, and it's possible.
We have to be in the top 5 because at least we know if we're in the top 5, if New England still sucks, if the Jaguars tend to suck still, you can possibly trade with one of those guys because they already have a quarterback.
Yep.
But we have to stay. We have to be at least in the top 5.
That's why I was a little shocked, to be honest, that we were so quiet at the trade deadline. But at the same point, you look at what everybody was getting. It's like people are like, "Oh, we'll trade Darius Slayton." Well, it's like if D-Hop is only worth a 4th round pick. What is Slayton worth? A 6th round pick? Does that really help you? Like, what if I give you the 6th round pick to get this to go up from number 5 to number 2? Ooh, a 6th round pick, you say?
Oh man!
Like it wasn't even worth making the deals at that point there. So.
If you like that clip, then you will love the full episodes too. Find us on your favorite podcast app and look for us on all your favorite social media platforms.
Thanks so much.
Please, I'm begging you. Please subscribe.